Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism. For years I struggled with idealism. I determined that it was a weakness and attempted to suppress my urge to fantasize. I did this by cutting out any external vice that could promote my daydreaming, music, pacing, media, etc. This rendered largely ineffective because whilst my concentration improved, the daydreams were still present. I was unable to escape my own consciousness. Due to this experience, I have been cultivating a plan for the past year that has had great success. It is not focused on entirely killing fantasy or surrendering to it, rather using it constructively and bringing dreams to reality. Welcome to episode 5 of Thoughts and Flowers. According to Harvard Medical School, maladaptive daydreaming occurs when a person engages in prolonged bouts of daydreaming, often for hours at a time, to cope with a problem. The daydreaming is maladaptive because it causes significant distress and impairment. The daydreams are often vivid and complex plots that elicit a great deal of emotion. A person becomes so consumed by their daydream, they may fail to complete work and other daily tasks, or start to withdraw from friends and family. Maladaptive daydreaming affects roughly 2.5% of the global population, and the symptoms include the following: intense and extremely vivid daydreams, complex and elaborate daydreams, often with many people involved, daydreams accompanied by repetitive movements, such as pacing, prolonged daydreams that may last hours at a time, a feeling of disconnect or dissociation from people and reality during the episode. The likely cause of maladaptive daydreaming is that it is a coping mechanism to deal with pre-existing neurodivergence or mental illness. Maladaptive daydreaming is not a mental illness in itself. Statistics cited from Harvard Medical School showcase that nearly 80% of those with maladaptive daydreaming also had attention hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, followed closely by anxiety disorders, 71.8%, depression, 56.4%, and obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, at 53.9%. So how do we overcome this? How do we bridge the gap from fantasy to reality? Jean-Paul Sartre argued that human consciousness differs from objects because it is always reaching beyond itself. A rock is simply what it is nothing more. But human beings are able to imagine possibilities, futures, alternatives, meanings. Consciousness is always moving beyond the present moment, and it exists within us. Imagination is evidence of freedom. To overcome maladaptive daydreaming, we must utilize our fantasies in order to enrich our reality, not to avoid it. In Twilight of the Idols, Friedrich Nietzsche writes, "This compulsion to transform into the perfect is art." And this made me realize that fantasies shouldn't simply be suppressed. They are evidence of our human desire to transform and should be utilized. Nietzsche also writes, "Beauty is no accident. Even the beauty of a race or a family, the charm and benevolence of their whole demeanor, it is the final result of accumulatory labor of generations." This may be why the person we dream of is so intoxicating. They are a result of sustained effort and labor. They are a glimpse of possible transformation. Your daydream self isn't there to escape reality. It is there to provide a vision. To overcome maladaptive daydreaming, we should utilize the gift of imagination constructively, not kill it. So here is the plan. I will divide these videos into 4 parts. Each part is for 1 week. Week 1, observe your mind. Week 2, understand your mind. Week 3, connect with reality. And week 4, build a life that no longer needs fantasy as an escape. Week 1, Day 1. Write down every reoccurring dream. What fantasy is the most prevalent? Are they fame fantasies, romance, others noticing your suffering, revenge fantasies? Each daydream indicates a different desire. If you would like to understand these dreams better, I have a video on how to decode and understand your dreams. Understanding them can help you execute them in reality, enable you to understand what you truly desire, and what is serving as emotional compensation. Question and journal the following. What happens in these daydreams? Who's present? What would I be most pleased about if I attained it in reality? What parts of my dreams do I potentially not desire in reality? Day 2. Separate fantasy from reality. Draw 2 columns, one titled fantasy and the other titled reality. Ask, which parts are actually achievable? Perhaps writing, singing, making new friends, becoming more sociable, traveling, a greater quality of life. Which parts aren't? Fantastical or unrealistic elements. Telepathy, magic powers, a perfect relationship, being admired universally. When you compartmentalize your dreams, you can understand what is possible and what isn't. Your desire no longer feels like an impossible and unachievable goal, rather something that could be tangible. Day 3, find your triggers. Like I said earlier, cutting out triggers had little effect when I was trying to stop daydreaming altogether, but reducing engagement with your triggers alongside a plan to pursue your dreams and engage with idealism productively can be greatly effective. Research consistently shows many people report triggers such as music, pacing, loneliness, boredom, stress, avoidance of studying, dreaming before sleep. Spend this day noticing what triggers you the most. Do not judge yourself, just become aware and execute a plan on how you can decrease engagement with each vice. For example, music can be limited to leisure time, not something that accompanies you all day long. Boredom isn't something to wallow in, but can be used as something to foster creativity. You can fill this time with hobbies and constructive engagement with reality. Day 4. Begin to track your patterns more. Estimate your hours. Simply measure how many hours do I roughly spend daydreaming. When does this daydream occur? Mostly in school, before bed. Most daydreamers report daydreaming becomes most intense during times of idleness and boredom. We are far less likely to engage with idealism when we feel immersed in reality. So mostly in situations with others or an activity we find stimulating, daydreaming can dissipate. Day 5. Join a community. Community is fundamental in overcoming maladaptive daydreaming. One of the main issues I noticed daydreamers were facing when perusing r/maladaptive daydreaming, a mental health forum, was loneliness. When we cannot fill our time with human interaction, it is natural to turn to a vice in order to compensate. The most successful recovery programs, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous, Obsessive Compulsives Anonymous, utilize community. Each day, few days, or week, members of these communities turn to share their experience with addiction and support one another. It is important to feel that you are not alone in your struggle. If you are searching for a community, I will provide links in my bio for the best communities that provide guidance for those dealing with similar issues. Isolation fuels maladaptive daydreaming. Community often reduces our shame surrounding it. Day 6. Create an urge page. This will help you to understand your triggers and build pattern recognition around your idealism. Every time you daydream, write the following. What happened during the dream? What emotion came first? Was I feeling bored or lonely or dissatisfied? What need was I trying to satisfy? Oftentimes, idealism is used to provide emotional compensation. For example, if we feel alone, we may resort to a daydream in which we are loved by many in order to compensate for the lack we feel in reality. If we feel invisible, we may resort to a fame fantasy in order to compensate for this lack. Day 7. Reflect. Journal the following. What surprised you? What have you noticed about yourself? Have your hours of daydreaming decreased? And have you noticed any patterns emerging? I hope you found this video helpful and stay tuned for week 2.